Welcome to Courtney on Health, heard on malcolmpresents.com and other websites, such as Many Shades of Green and other websites. I don't know what they are, because Courtney, what is your website?
CourtneyGravities.com.
CourtneyGravities.com. Anyway, take it away, Maxine.
So I'll say
Give us our
hello
intro.
to you. Hello to you, Malcolm, and hi, Courtney, and welcome to Courtney on Health. This Zoomcast series about how to get through. I can't, every time I see the lingering COVID times in the copy, I just shake my head with tips on nutrition and exercise given by Courtney Gravities, registered dietitian with a Master of Science degree in nutrition and applied physiology. Courtney is an experienced nutritional and health consultant in the New York metro area and the world, and will help guide you on a path to wellness and health. So we're in the fall season, and so we're going to bring a little fall, a little autumn into your life on this episode. So here's a poem. It's called "I Want to Taste Pumpkin" by Karen Krutzinger. I take another bite of sweet pumpkin pie, wondering why I deprive myself of her company most of the year, only allowing her to grace my mouth on Thanksgiving week. You can take the rest of it home, our host offers. Seeing how totally enamored I am with her, I put aluminum foil lovingly around her top, begrudging my 4-year-old cousin's plea. I want to taste pumpkin. He does not like it, of course, so his unthinking mother throws it away. I dig it out of the trash seconds later. Tiny bite marks will not stop me from devouring this piece in my dorm room. Grandma gives me a thumbs up as I leave to go back to college. Next year, I'll make another one just for you, she says. I think, Courtney, you're going to have to make some pumpkin pie for Talia, huh?
I think so.
I think so. So just a quick, I have to bring Charlie Brown into the Great Pumpkin in here. Just a line from Linus. Linus says in the cartoon, each year, the Great Pumpkin rises out of the pumpkin patch that he thinks is the most sincere. He's got to pick this one. He's got to. I don't see how a pumpkin patch can be more sincere than this one. You can look around and there's not a sign of hypocrisy. Nothing but sincerity as far as the eye can see. This is in a kid's cartoon, and we're talking about hypocrisy in the pumpkin patch, which is kind of interesting, but that's aside. Always loved that one. Well, autumn is here and the leaves are changing, soon to form an amazing carousel of color, which I got from Disney, that line.
Carousel of color, I love that.
Right. We are starting to sit by the fireplace, and the kitchen has the sense of cinnamon, nutmeg, fruit pies and cookies baking in the oven, and big pots of soup on the stove. And lots of sweets are consumed. So how can we balance pumpkin lattes, apple cider donuts, pumpkin IPA beer with more nutritious seasonal food options? A big part of fall season is apple picking and finding the perfect pumpkin, as Linus said, in the pumpkin patch. Both apples and pumpkins are healthier options. As we carve the pumpkin into jack-o'-lanterns, we can also make a variety of great dishes that we pull from the inside. You know, that gooey stuff and all the flesh. We can make a variety of great dishes that will make stews and soups and even ravioli. And I mean, pumpkin ravioli is a thing.
Pumpkin ravioli?
Yeah, there's pumpkin filled ravioli. Yeah, you back me up, Courtney. And the Thanksgiving favorite, as in that poem, pumpkin pie. Eating more apples, as the saying goes, keeps the doctor away. There are also many root vegetables that can be roasted and made into delicious and healthy meals, including various types of squash. So the weather is getting cooler. Sweaters and jackets have replaced t-shirts and shorts. In the blink of an eye, winter will be here. I don't know whether to be happy or sad, but let's enjoy the season of crisp air, a delicious crisp, apple crisp. I love apple crisp dessert. Is that something you make, Courtney? And Mother Nature's cacophony of color.
Yeah, but I have to say one thing about your monologue. You definitely have an East Coast bias.
I do.
Not when it was 95 degrees yesterday in Los Angeles or the San Fernando
You
Valley.
can still eat a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about. It doesn't have to be heavy foods, right?
No, the food is fine. It's just the crisp weather where we have to wear jackets and sweaters.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's your fault for leaving 4 seasons. You know, I mean, you know, you want seasons, come east. What can I tell you?
Right.
If you
So
want,
this is the season. This is
So-
our season for, you know, incredible, and this is really anywhere, right? Anywhere within the, you know, United States. Many of these from produce items we're going to talk about today are certainly available year round, most of them, not all of them. But the best time to have them would be this time of year. The biggest category we're going to talk about today will be the big squash family. So certainly you can't get an inch this time of year without hearing about pumpkin something, right? You know, Maxine, you mentioned all of them. It's pumpkin everything, pumpkin everywhere. Forget the artificially flavored pumpkin lattes and all that other stuff. Take advantage of the whole components of the incredible squash pumpkin that's available to us. But we are going to talk about all the other squashes that look a little, to me, they're beautiful, but they can be a little intimidating, right? They look a little weird. There's a turban squash that's out there that literally looks like a turban, but it really is, to me, a beautiful like art show from Mother Nature this time of year with the colors and the shapes and everything. So let's do a little squash 101, right? So there were over, and we're not covering all of them today, don't worry, 700 species of squash, 700 that are known. And it's from a category of plants called the Cucurbitaceae family. That's
Easy for you to say.
That's right, Cucurbitaceae family. So so many different types, pumpkin being one of them, but even within the pumpkin variety, there are many types of pumpkin. Most of us know the big jack-o'-lantern, the ones that we get, you know, pumpkin picking and we put out for Halloween and we carve up. Certainly the seeds in that big pumpkin, like a bigger pumpkin like this size, are certainly fine to toast up, but because of the super high water content of those larger pumpkins, except for the seeds, they're really best used for decoration only. That high water content doesn't make it creamy and smooth and blendable and pureable like some of the other squashes that are available to us. So for example, and I know my aunt, actually a couple of my aunts, and every Thanksgiving would make their own pumpkin puree from these buggers. These are your sugar pumpkins. So you see they're smaller. Because of that size, they're much sweeter, and the flesh inside is going to be less fibrous, more blendable, so more akin to what you would expect inside of a, you know, something like a pumpkin pie. So they're really the best ones to use if you're going to old school it and make your own pumpkin puree. You could also, year round, by the way, it's totally fine, because you know I'm always about easy peasy. Buy what's available. The pure pumpkin puree, that's just pumpkin puree. I'm not talking about pumpkin pie mix. So this time of year, make sure you know what you're getting in the can if you're going to choose this option. It's a perfectly fine option. It takes a lot of the work out of it. And you can use these not only in pies, but you can mix them into soups, into stews. I've got a friend who uses it and mixes it into chili. You could blend it in with other purees. So there are definitely options.
do you know, I'm sorry, do you know you can also blend it into dog food? It's healthy for dogs.
I did not know that. I know there's certain things dogs aren't supposed to eat. I've never had. So, okay, that's good to know. So for all the dog lovers out there, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but I had to throw that out.
All right. You could certainly toast up your own pumpkin seeds, but particularly this time of year, you can buy the bags of them, usually just a little bit of sea salt, plain roasted. So again, there are options if you're not willing to scoop and dry and clean the pumpkin seeds and do it yourself. But they are a powerhouse of nutrition, as are most of the squashes that we're going to talk about today. So that beautiful orangey flesh color, orangey yellow color is we can attribute to the very high beta carotene content that's in there, but they're also crazy high in vitamin C, B6. In many cases, some of them are very high in fiber. So it's a really excellent source of produce that it's not only seasonal, it's very usable, very easy to integrate but it's packed full of nutrition. Pumpkin seeds, magnesium, potassium, very easy to use. As long as it's not been mixed at a plant where peanuts are, they're safe to consume for somebody with a tree nut peanut allergy. So it's a great option to have around. You guys might know this one. Butternut
Butternuts.
squash. One of my faves, the storage for almost all of these squashes that we're talking about today is usually 2 to 4 months, providing you're keeping it somewhere between 50, 55 on the cooler side, and in a dry spot, which makes them wonderful to store. So you can get them this time of year, store them, they'll last for 2 to 4 months, but you can also sort of steam them or get them half prepped and then freeze them. They freeze beautifully. So in the case of the butternut squash, it's a very, very tough, if you've ever worked with it, it's a very tough skin. So you gotta be careful. Get a sharp knife, get a board, make sure you've got a nice flat surface, and work carefully so that the knife doesn't slip. Alternatively, there are many tricks for this. You can clean the skin, put a little bit of oil on it, roast it for a little bit to soften that skin. Then you cut it in half, get rid of the seeds, and then you can scoop out the inside and mash it, turn it into soup, puree it, whatever you'd like to do with it. It's wonderful. It has a very incredibly nice, smooth, sweet flavor to it. The skin, however, in the case of butternut, cannot be consumed, as opposed to these little buggers. Now, I know they look like a butternut squash has been thrown in the dryer and they made little
They look like butternut squash children.
Right.
The butternut squash children. They're very cute. I rarely see these. I was visiting some friends this weekend and they had them not only at their house, but they had them in their farmer's market. These are actually not baby butternuts. These are called honey nuts.
Honey nuts.
Honey nuts. They are even sweeter, naturally sweet, than a butternut. And the beauty of these is, as long as you clean the skin is edible. So the whole thing can be consumed, except for the small seeds that are inside.
Now, are these squashes only seasonal? Because I seem to, aside from the pumpkin, I seem to see all these squashes year round.
A lot of them are. They can be easily cold stored. Like, I think the home storage, we're getting 4 months out of it. But the reality is, if these are stored properly in a commercial, like a grocery store, they can be held for even longer than that. So you're right. You will see. I see acorn squash year round. I do see butternut squash year round. This one that we're going to talk about now, which is delicata. This is it. This is their season. Part of the reason is because this has a thinner skin on it. So it can't last, or really wouldn't last as long as a thicker skin. So this one's very seasonal. It's an amazing squash if you're not familiar with it. First of all, it's just beautiful. It has these incredible lines. The skin can be eaten. It's wonderful roasted. You scoop out those seeds, you slice it up, and you put it in salads. You can, of course, puree it up. It's wonderful. And I'm going to post some of these recipes over the next week or so. You can put it into a salad with a little bit of feta cheese, arugula, pomegranate seeds. It's a treat this time of year. If there's one you're going to try, because you can't get it year round, try this one and get it now, because by January, they'll certainly won't be in many groceries. You might find them in some, but many groceries you won't be able to find them. This guy you might know. You guys know what this one is?
Looks familiar.
It looks familiar.
Acorn. Yeah, it's our acorn squash.
Right.
So again, most people will cut it. Careful with that sharp knife. Know what you're doing. Clean that skin. You roast it. A lot of people like adding to its natural sweet flavor and putting those very warming spices, those spices that we associate with a little sweetness, like cinnamon, nutmeg, and a little drizzle of something like maple syrup in there, and eating it just like that. I'm more of a savory type of fan, so I would be more prone to mixing it maybe with maybe a grain or a quinoa, a little bit of cheese or something along those lines. But it's very forgiving, very easy to use. But you just need to just get yourself a little familiar with it, and make sure it's cooked all the way. This is not one. Many of these have to be cooked, so you want to make sure you're not eating it underdone.
Now, do you prepare these dishes at home
Yeah.
on a regular basis?
Well, this time of year, I'll definitely tap into my cold weather, like cooler. I know not necessarily near you, but yeah, because they're available and the price is lower. So I'm always about, if it's in season, chances are the price will be lower. So this is my time to consume. That doesn't mean I don't make butternut squash soup in the middle of summer, because I'm a soup year-round kind of person, but it's the cheapest time to get most of these squashes, so it's a great time to purchase.
Then I have a question. How did you get your daughter to move from home? If I was living with you, I'd be there. I'd say, Courtney, what's for dinner tonight? I need a menu for the week.
Like most teenagers, it's not a hard sell to go off to college.
That's right. Get out of here, kid. You bother me.
Now, when you get to be old, the food becomes a priority.
Well, I think she actually does like a lot of my soups. This one, again, another gorgeous one is called, it looks like acorn. It's a sweet dumpling. So it's green, it's orange, it's yellow, very sweet. Wonderful for soups, very blendable. So you can see that there's a very wide variety of all of these different squash. Get creative with some of them. Most of them are edible. I do have to mention that there are some, and we see them this time of year too, that are not edible. It's called cucurbit poisoning. It's been associated with something called toxic squash syndrome, not toxic shock syndrome. That's different. I can't make this stuff up.
Toxic squash syndrome.
Toxic squash syndrome.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? It's a rare poisoning that occurs in the whole, category of squash. Very rarely in the ones we just spoke about. More commonly in like the little ornamental ones, like these guys. Right. And then you guys know the ones I'm talking about. They kind of look like this, but they have that bumpy skin on them. You see them all over the place this time of year for the fall. The ones that are meant to be more for decoration in a cornucopia or part of your, fall type decorations. Those should really be reserved just for visual pleasure and not gastric pleasure. So again, it's a rare poisoning, but you do need to be aware of it. And just make sure that you don't start sampling around with some of the more decorative ones.
Wow. Courtney, what about spaghetti squash?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
That's something that's very popular, I think, all year round and in restaurants and especially, farm to table, more vegan directed places. Are you going to throw up a good recipe for that one?
Absolutely. In fact, it's really popular now. A lot of folks have migrated to spaghetti squash as an alternative, a lower carb alternative, perhaps to regular pasta, which is absolutely fine. It's a cool, I didn't have one here, but it's a cool squash. So again, you have to roast it, but that roasting process turns the inside, which is in a solid form, into strands once cooked. Strands that look long strands that look very much like spaghetti, hence the name spaghetti squash.
You have to cut it up, or?
Well, once it's cooked, once you roast it, you cut it in half, you open it up, and you take a fork and you would shred it. There's going to be seeds in all of these on the inside. Get rid of the seeds, and then you take a fork, and it will literally, Malcolm, shred into strands of pasta, spaghetti-like pieces. So people use that as a base for pasta, and they'll put pasta sauce or meat sauce. I've seen people use it. I like it as a side. It's not my favorite squash, but it's very popular as a side dish, a savory side dish, maybe with a little bit of herbs or aromatics and some cheese, and you can mix it up like that as a great side dish. So it's very popular. Lots of recipes out there. I will just make you a little aware. People tend to migrate towards it, as I said, as a lower carb alternative to pasta, but then they tend to, load it up with things like, an Alfredo sauce with bacon bits. And so once you've done that, you've kind of, gotten off the path of health. So choose wisely. It's an excellent source. You know, if you're trying to watch your carbs, certainly, you know, you can look into that as an option, but you do need to know that out of all of the ones we've spoken about so far, it's certainly got a goodly amount of beta carotene, but it's not the superstar squash that a lot of these others are. So it's going to be a little bit lower in vitamin A, beta carotene, B6, and, you know, so just, you know, it shouldn't be a deal killer. It shouldn't keep you from it, but just be aware that, again, it's not going to be that superstar of some of the others that we've mentioned today.
Can you run through, I mean, I try to use, you know, I carve the pumpkin and take out the guts and take out the seeds and then try to clean them and dry them. Is there any better way to do that? And then roast them? I mean, can you give us a tip on that?
Yes, so you can, so first of all, you're gonna wanna get a nice wide, so once you have the pumpkin, you know, I'm assuming you've got, once you're in there, right?
Mhm.
There's gonna be a lot of stuff in there. You want a nice wide mouth, sturdy spoon, okay? I wear a rubber glove simply because I get better grip on the spoon in there because it's gonna fight you on it. There's a lot of fibers in there. Scoop all that out, pull as much of those fibers away, put all of those seeds in a big bowl or pot of cold water. Once it's in there, sometimes it's a little bit easier to separate out those strands from the seeds. So that's usually the bulk of the work. And then if you have a couple of strands left on the seeds before you put them in the oven, don't sweat it. Once it's all dried up, when it's been roasting, they're much easier to pull away. So you don't have to be immaculate before you put them on the baking pan. You just want to get most of those strands away. So that, for me at least, is one of the best ways. I use a glove, a nice wide spoon, scoop out and throw it all into some water because they're great. You know, they're a wonderful snack. And once you have them, you know, and they store for a very long time in a sealed container. So it's a wonderful, very nutritious snack to have around.
Yeah, I love it. I love that part. I love that's one reason I like to carve out the pumpkin.
Yeah.
To have that.
How nutritious is pumpkin pie?
Well,
Because that seems to be the big thing.
What are you comparing it to?
Apple pie.
You know, you can lighten up all of these recipes. You can pull back on the sugar in pumpkin pie. You can, you know, a crust is a crust. It's just, I've seen people make crustless pumpkin pies, but to me, pie's pie, it's going to have crust.
A pie is a pie is a pie.
So you can lighten them up a little bit, but I wouldn't go too far, right? You want that nice flavor in there. Then nothing's going to beat the beta carotene, the precursor to vitamin A content of any of the pumpkin squash options. You can certainly use some of the other squashes in pumpkin pie and make it sort of like a sweet dumpling pumpkin pie, and it would come out nicely. But beta carotene, there's nothing that's really coming very close. But you can do pumpkin breads, apple bread. I know you mentioned apples. This is clearly apple season. We're in it. So if you haven't gone out there to either go to pick your own and grab your own, but also this time of year, great time to get those perfectly crunchy, perfectly sweet apples, and there's all different varieties. And, you know, fiber content, the flavonoid content, so high in not only apples, but people forget this is pear season as well. And there's a variety of different pears, Anjou, Bartlett. And so these are a wonderful option. What most people might not know, though, is that they're not picked ripe. They're picked underripe. And some would say way underripe, and they're meant to continue ripening on your counter. So not unrefrigerated. Once they give a little bit of yield, that's when they're ready to be eaten. Pears are naturally high in something called sorbitol, which is a sugar alcohol. So it's typically in an artificial form in things like chewing gums and things like that, but in its naturally occurring form, it's a natural laxative for many people. So oftentimes I will encourage some clients who might be having a little bit of issue, maybe a little bit backed up a little, can't seem to get away from talking about poop, but you know, and try some of these foods that are naturally high in sorbitol, pears being one of them. So don't forget about pears as you know, an option for one of your fall favorite fruits this time of year. Sweet potatoes. I just cut one open so you can see that gorgeous red interior. We mostly get sweet potatoes. There's yams also, but we don't get true yams, usually those would be, just to give you a visual cue, a browner, rougher skin on the outside, and the inside would be almost a pale, creamier color. Once you're in there, they're both excellent sources of beta carotene and fiber. Your sweet potato is going to have a little bit more, but again, just so you know what you're getting when you're out in the stores. Our green leafy vegetables are cold weather crops or cool weather crops. So you will get things like a lot of the chards, kale. You'll get another. So remember, early spring when it's cooler, and then late fall fall, you'll also get them. These are wonderful. They're not going to last months like our squashes will, but you can cook them up into soups, into stews, make salads as a side dish. You can saute them. They are packed with, in some of them, iron. They have lutein in them, so many vitamins and minerals. So take advantage again of the price being lowest, because we're getting a lot of the crops, usually locally, this time of year. So don't forget about them. Use them. Once the soups are made, they can be frozen and put them in your freezer, and you can eat them throughout throughout the winter or whenever you get to it. You guys know what this is, right?
Cauliflower.
Yes, more cold weather. This is our cruciferous vegetable family, more cold weather veg. So some of the best prices for this gorgeous veg is the best, usually around this time of year. And then once again, in the springtime.
Why does cauliflower remind me of a brain? It has all the
little nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, some say it is a good brain food, so maybe there's something to that. Again, don't be I will say that what I hear a lot of. Do you guys cook cauliflower at all?
Yeah, I do sometimes.
What does your house smell like, Maxine, after you cook cauliflower?
Not great.
Yes.
It's a stinky smell. That's why you gotta do
vent.
it.
Yeah.
Gotta be vented and open your window.
But something. I love cauliflower raw.
Okay, yeah.
Just cut it up and you put a little sauce. I don't know what my wife makes. She has a sauce and you dip it in.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a great appetizer, it's before dinner.
Absolutely. But some people,
and I love the taste.
The taste is raw. Some people like it raw. More people, I would say, like it cooked, because it sort of softens up. That takes a little bit of that edge off. But the barrier, of course, as we mentioned, is that funky smell. It smells like somebody has just used your bathroom, which nobody likes. So you got to vent properly. But once it's made, I always say, if you're going to funkify your house with the smell, why don't you cook double and then just store it properly and then eat it, several days later on. It is one, and I know we overuse that word quite a bit, but it is a powerhouse of nutrition.
Well, apparently they a lot, you can get cauliflower riced. And that seems to be people substituting rice with cauliflower rice.
Yeah.
And it seems to be something that more and more people are doing.
Yeah, so you can buy it that way. You can certainly do it yourself, but you're going to have to, actually, you don't have to cook it first, but I would say it's a little bit easier if you've taken off some of that toughness to it, just to get it through the ricer. But, so people do make it at home. And listen, any way that people can sneak more veg in, particularly something as healthful as the cauliflower, I'm all for it. So yeah, that's become certainly.
Now my question is: this sort of like for indigestion that provide, like, is that gassy type of thing where with cauliflower, or sort of provide more I don't know, but gas in your stomach? It's harder to digest.
It can be a little gas. So certainly the cooked is going to be a little bit easier to tolerate than raw, because of its high fiber content and some of the compounds in there. For some people, you want to go slowly, as with anybody who's increasing their fiber content. You want to move slowly, because it can be very uncomfortable as your body gets used to a new level of fiber in your diet. So you'd want to maybe start slowly. Don't have a giant, don't pick your first, day one as the day to have all of these, and then, riced cauliflower and, a bunch of, some of the veg we're talking about today. Your body some time. to get
Well,
used
it seems to get worse as you get older. I don't know whether the body either has an intolerance for that or whether it's for whatever reason, our internal organs as we get older does not absorb it as much as well as when we were in our 20s.
Well, digestion does change as, a lot of it, we lose some of our taste, is not all of it, but you lose a little bit of taste sensation. Our thirst mechanism is off. You're right, we might not digest certain foods as well as we used to. So all the more, it doesn't mean eliminate them. That would be, not advisable, but maybe just go a little bit slower and maybe a smaller serving size. Because remember, we need fewer calories as we get older, not more. So generally, you want to tick back on some of.
And I'd say try it out while you're at home before you go out to dinner with friends.
Exactly. Cabbages are another cold weather crop. So speaking about gas producing, this is definitely one of them. So you want to go slowly, small serving size. I am going to post at the same friend's house this past weekend. I tried a new recipe for me because normally I saute or I braise cabbages. I mix them into soups, and he had a wonderful Asian-based, almost like a slaw. It was cooked though, it wasn't raw, and it was off the charts delicious. So I'm definitely going to post that one, and it was relatively, a little bit of prep on the front side, but it was fabulous, flavorful, and it was like a bowl of nutrition. So
I want to try that.
it was just a nice alternative. Let's not forget about peppers. Okay, you'll see a lot of them. This is a banana pepper. That's awfully fun. These are great. You can certainly grill them, but they're wonderful for pickling. This is poblano. These are just some of the varieties I have. But again, it's a colder weather crop. You'll see a lot more of them, a wider variety. We know that the heat difference in these is going to vary. So choose wisely. Don't pop a habanero in there. But we know that heat that's produced, actually, and we've talked about this before, is wonderful as an anti-inflammatory in the body. So wide variety of flavors. The poblano to me has a sort of like a slightly almost smokier flavor to it. But again, the prices will be probably lower this time of year because of the abundance and their availability that's out there.
Guys, would you believe it or not? Our allotted time has
done.
What do you got in your hand before we go?
Yeah.
Beets.
Beets. Ah, yes.
Roast them, pickle them.
I love beets.
I love pickled beets.
But I hate borscht.
Me too.
Okay. Well,
Very strange. Very strange. We can't take you anywhere. It's all right.
I love sliced beets, slightly boiled and just softer.
Yeah, they're so good for you. And again, if you buy these, again, kept cold, dry, that's the important thing, cool and dry for storage for almost all of, certainly the root vegetables and the squashes that we spoke about, and you can have them for months, which is fantastic.
It's funny, 9 out of 10 shows that we do, I leave the show and I go to eat.
Yeah, because me too. It's like, this is too good. Gotta eat something now.
Right. If you don't have an appetite, listen to Courtney on health, and
it's okay.
It improves your appetite.
We took my son for a pre-birthday because he won't be here on his birthday. And he wanted to go to John's Best in the city, in the village, and we ate outside. And what pizza did he want to eat? Garlic, mushroom, and hot cherry peppers.
Oh, wow.
And I had a slice of the hot cherry peppers and my face was red, but it was delicious. So it's okay.
Perfect for you. Well, I love hot peppers.
Hot stuff is good. So when he showed the other pepper, I went, just had something yesterday. But all these the recipes for stuff that Courtney will put up, and she, has fantastic tips. So that's like something everyone should follow up with and go and get cooking some squash, It's awesome.
Definitely. And be healthy.
All right. So thanks for joining us for Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, Courtney on Health, on Instagram at CLG Wellness, and visit her website, CourtneyGravenese.com. For more shows, go to MalcolmPresents.com and theManyShadesOfGreen.com. Courtney on Health, smart, sound nutrition, strong, safe fitness, and we'll catch you next time.
And be safe and wear your mask.
Be safe and mask up.
Mask up appropriately.
Okay.
Bye. See you next week, guys.
Have a good
Bye.
week. Bye.